Did you know that your attachment style can play a huge role in the kind of partner that you're drawn to? It can explain why some relationships feel like magic while other relationships make you feel drained. So let's break it down so that you can start attracting healthier connections. So, attachment styles are like the blueprint for how we connect with others. And as cliche as it may sound, it really stems down to the relationship that you had with your caregivers, with your parents growing up. So, there are four different types of attachment styles there is secure, anxious, avoidant, and fearful avoidant, which is also sometimes called disorganized. And it wasn't until I learned about these attachment styles that I really started to change how I connected with my romantic partners. So we'll start with secure attachment. And secure attachment is usually when a child grew up with parents that were consistently reliable, responsible, and nurturing. So they had parents that were always there, that showed up for their soccer game, parents that listened to when you had problems, that were comforting. So people that grow up in a very nurturing home where all their needs were met tend to grow up feeling more secure and confident and don't often require the other partner to be there and fulfill that part of themselves because they have been able to grow up and have that self confidence all on their own because that was given to them since they were young. So, people that have secure attachment have better ways of setting boundaries, are better at communicating their needs to their partner. They have more self-esteem, they're more secure. And so because they feel more confident in who they are, it enables them to choose partners that are also secure and they don't feel the need to have that person fulfill any part of them because they're pretty confident with who they are. Then we have attachment style number two, anxious attachment. And that often stems in childhood when parents are not consistently nurturing and warm. So sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not there. So parents can sometimes be there for you, but maybe they're not listening to your problems. So your parents may have been around, but maybe didn't fulfill all that part of you that needed to be fulfilled as a child. So people then who grow up with that inconsistency as adults, there are people now that have fear of abandonment because, again, like with their parents, they're not sure if a partner is going to be there or not be there. So now in a romantic relationship, if a partner doesn't call them right away, they have that anxiety like, will they call me? Will they not call me? And that's where I really fell in, was in that anxious attachment. My parents were always physically there and nurturing every now and then, especially in a Latino household. Emotionally, our parents are not really there for us. So a lot of my time in therapy was working towards kind of working on that attachment style and working on becoming more secure with myself. But again, it brought up those feelings of insecurity, those feelings of maybe my partner would call me, maybe they wouldn't. I always felt like I needed reassurance that the relationship was going where I needed to go. So anxious attachment, again, comes from parents not always being there. And again, when you have working parents, when you have, everybody's situation is different, but my parents being immigrants and working, they weren't always there when I needed to chat about things. So that's where my anxious attachment style came from. So now we're going to be moving on to avoidant. Now, avoidant attachment can also often start in childhood when a child's emotional needs aren't met as far as the parent being emotionally unavailable, distant, or dismissive. This is when a child, like, they're not comforted when they're upset, or they're told, stop crying. Well, why are you crying? It's not that big of a deal. Or, go to your room. Why are you so upset? So a child that grows up in that environment might feel that expressing themselves is not safe. They have to cope with their insecurities and their sadness on their own. And so then that leads them to not be as expressive in relationships, to feel that they can't always talk about how they're actually feeling with a partner because it might not be safe. They might be told, like, you're being too emotional, you're showing too much, like you're being too clingy. So avoidant attachment is more like they can still care for you, but they want to keep you at an arm's length. People that have anxious attachment, they show discomfort with emotional closeness. They have a hard time being vulnerable. They have a hard time kind of leaning on anyone. They want to do things on their own and be independent because as children, they were taught that they had to rely on themselves. Like they couldn't go to someone and let them know like, "Hey, I'm sad or I need help," because they weren't given that support. So they become very comfortable with being on their own and keeping people at an arm's length. An interesting fact is that sometimes people that have anxious attachment style like myself, because although I feel like I have changed, at the core, that's really who I was for such a long time. But people that tend to have anxious attachment styles will often seek people that have avoidant attachment styles because it's very interesting. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy where the person that's anxious, that doesn't know whether the boyfriend's going to call or not call, and they have like this anxiety, they'll pick someone that then is avoidant. And the avoidant person doesn't always want to show emotions. They have problems being vulnerable and giving that kind of feedback. So I had to kind of learn to become more secure because I definitely attracted avoidant attachment styles, the men that needed their independence, that didn't always want to call. So again, kind of recognizing those differences really helped me in recognizing when I was being anxious and when someone was being avoidant. Okay, and now the fourth style of attachment is disorganized attachment. Now, this may stem from a childhood where the caregiver was often neglectful, abusive. There was a lot of trauma in the house. It was a home where, a child may have had the parent obviously be a caregiver, but also be the source of trauma and neglect. So, people that have this kind of upbringing will then have a lot of a push and pull in a relationship where they may want to get close to someone, but they don't know how to do that. So they push people away. People with disorganized attachment styles will have difficulties with trust and commitment. They'll have unpredictable emotional responses. And sometimes they'll even pick partners that might mirror that chaotic relationship they had growing up. So they might pick a partner that is actually very neglectful towards them, that is abusive towards them. So it's almost like they want to recreate the trauma that they experience as children. So it creates a very unstable and very unpredictable kind of environment. And probably the most dangerous one is the disorganized attachment style. And there you have it. Those are the 4 different attachment styles. If you'd like for me to go into more details into them, go ahead and leave a comment below. Let me know what attachment style resonates the most with you. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you'd like to watch more videos like this. Until next time, keep shining, keep glowing. Bye.